Ya Baruch Hashem, and Shalom Rosh Tiferet Habarim. Now, at this very moment, we are currently in, or some of us in certain geographical highcations, safely. We're in a daily, so it's a Thursday, the 29th of January 2026, and it's also 5:30 p.m. on a Thursday. Now, the daily period of the cycles of life is a C period. From 5:08 to 8:34, a C period. Very good for the realization of great, detailed and metaphysical, spiritual truths about life, and having clear and very exact and precise insight into how life works and everything, and so on and so forth. And in addition to that, we're actually currently we're in a positive short lunar unit right now for another 20 minutes. And then we are also currently in a positive long lunar unit till the next new moon that will be on the 1st of February. Okay, now having that clearly monitored, what we now know is basically exactly what this time right now is good for, and what things we should seek to accomplish that will then also lead to the highest good, basically speaking, being manifested. And the way that this works is actually quite simply by checking and becoming clearly cognizant of your real-time position within the cycles of life. We just did that. And now we know what state, or what life cycles we are in, and also what life cycles the universe and the world around us is in right now. For example, the short lunar units that also make themselves visible as the tides, or the long lunar unit of 3.5 days that is referenceable and identifiable by the time and date and hour and minute and second, milliseconds too, of the new moon or the full moon, right? Now, the subject matter here and this presentation will be focusing on a very, very important routine, best practice and procedure type of a practice that we practice as part of self-mastery and the ability and exercising the good ability to master our life and our destiny. Now, one of the most important things is that you safely, scientifically experiment and investigate life and the details of it, right? Divinely guided and supplied with, increasing amounts of wisdom, and that you also safely, scientifically experiment, because if you do this, later you are able to analyze the data and the information and the knowledge gained from your scientific experiments. And what this does is it gives you additional accuracy and effectivity, additional victory and good capability to operate very, very victoriously in life, even more and more and more and much more. Now look, there's one thing that I have discovered that is really important, and it's very, very helpful. What it is it's doing what I call a routine test, or sort of actually very keenly and precisely observing what happens while you wisely operate to accomplish your objectives, and then looking at what actually happened. And usually this will be in the form of a reflection say on the Friday afternoon, just before the day of rest, we might reflect on what happened during the previous 6 days and go, okay, so here's what I set out to do, on the first day, and 6 days have gone by. Now, what have we accomplished? And then so what happens is that by sort of reflecting on what happened or what you've accomplished, right? Say, for example, we start our creative operations on Sunday, Monday, okay? And then, right, by about Friday afternoon, things have been, generally completed as much as possible, as good as possible. And then we stop and reflect on what happened and look at, okay, what did I set out to do? And what actually happened, though? Because, see, here's the thing. This is like being able to sort of, it's like being able to recalibrate your equipment to absolutely precisely and perfectly accomplish your objectives in life. Because here's what's going on, right? So, for example, as I speak right now, I have a certain amount of data available to me, right, that shows me, okay, look, right, these are the life cycles I'm in. The cycles of life that I'm in right now are good for these and these and those and those things, right? And then, so I know, okay, these are the parameters wherein I should operate, right? Based on the description of the life cycle periods that I'm in. So it's like you have a general map of things, okay? Yet, what happens is that, it's almost like the difference between our personal level of wisdom and how wisely and effectively and prosperously we can operate, and how the Creator, blessed be His name, guides us and additionally adjusts and makes things even better as we go. And being able to actually see that is important. Now, okay, look, I'm going to put this into very plain language so you can all just simply understand what I'm talking about. So, if you set out to accomplish certain things in your life, in business and in personal life and so on, right? Okay, so you're going to be guided by wisdom, and you're going to seek to accomplish things that are perpetuous within the life cycles that you are in right now, right? Based on having knowledge of the cycles of life that you're in. This goes on every day, okay? Perhaps except on the day of rest, so to say. Okay, so now, when you set your objectives, right, you become focused on certain objectives, and you use all the wisdom you have to accomplish these objectives. Now, so this is really interesting. There's a personal perspective and a point of view that we have on, okay, that's what I should do and that should work, right? Because knowing what I know, I basically can see, okay, that can work. So like you sort of have expectations, right? But now what actually happens though is, as always, by divine providence, it all works out even better. But seeing how this works systematically is very, very important. It's as if you can actually see that, like God's hand of guidance at work with this. So, look, for example, on the previous Sunday, I set out to accomplish certain things. Okay. Now, what actually happened was, I actually accomplished the most important things I set out to accomplish, and in addition to that, even greater things happened. And so now look, what you have to do is stop and reflect, because you see, look, it's almost like this. It's almost like you're cooking with a pot of clear and good water. And the temperature of the water has to be exactly at a certain degree so that when you put the ingredients in and you cook it, it turns out perfect after a certain amount of time. Well, let's say it's almost like we have a certain amount of knowledge as to what the temperature in the pot is like and what it's going to be like. Yet, to see exactly how things go best, it's like you have to experiment and then analyze what happened, and then you can see how things are sort of pitched and tuned right now, and then adjust your method and mode of operation accordingly. And what happens then is that you become much more prosperous because you're better in tune with how everything is going systematically in life and the cycles of life that you're in and the universe in general. So the point that I'm making is, when you set out to accomplish things during the 6 days of creation, right? You're guided by wisdom, you have a map, you know what life cycles you're in, and so you seek to interact with and legitimately, operate and cooperate and hopefully work with others in particular areas of business, and you seek to, interact with the right people, wherefore it is propitious to interact with in the life cycles that you're in at this time, okay? But then what happens is, after 6 days of this, you reflect and you realize, so, okay, let's just sort of detach, right? And sort of zoom out and look, okay, where and what and how did things go better than expected, and where are they actually going very good? And then adjust your method of movement and operation to be more in accordance with where things have gone better than expected, right? So that's the idea here. So now another thing is this. So basically what I'm talking about is, let's say after 6 days of wise operating and scientifically experimenting and observing life and also seeking to accomplish legitimate objectives, you've accomplished good things, and what's happened is that some of the things that have actually been accomplished were a little bit different and were better than what you set out to accomplish. And you should look at that and pay attention to that, because what it shows you is that, okay, so that's showing you more of how things are supposed to and are automatically sort of programmed to go right now. So over the previous 6 days, there were some good interactions with certain people, better than I expected. Okay, really good things actually happened and are happening. Okay, so then look at what happened and analyze for a minute and look at it from a distance, neutrally, so that you can adjust your personal objectives so that things basically work better. And they automatically do, yet it's almost like we have certain objectives that we can have based on the level of wisdom and knowledge that we have and that we can practically apply. Yet when we do that, that's good. That's like the best we can do. Yet then later we reflect on what actually happened while we were doing our best, and we see that things have actually worked even better. Okay, now this is really important, because look, if we were to look at that, it's actually as if what we're doing is sort of being intelligently receptive to additional divine guidance and even adjustment and additional divine aid and providence and improvement of our overall life situations and so on. So you're looking at what happened and you see that, wow, this actually happened this way. Now I had that on the radar. I knew that it was generally supposed to work that way, yet this worked even better. Okay, so keep going that route that works even better, right? This includes interacting with the right people too. So look, what I'm talking about is, you have a description of the life cycles or the life cycle periods that you're in, okay? And having the description of the life cycle periods that you're in, you know that the life cycles you're in are propitious or very good for certain things, and to interact and to cooperate with, right, certain people within certain areas of business, and you sort of have a map, and there's routes that you should go that are indicated, right? Yet when you've gone for a while and you look at what happened and see that it actually happened much better, and that's always how it is in life because of divine guidance, thank God Almighty, right? You then stop and you look and you go, okay, so that route I basically knew that route would be or should be good, yet that worked so much better. So keep going that way. Keep interacting with those people whereby things have worked in a good way. right? So like you're adjusting your course intelligently by analyzing the steps of the like journey that you've gone on, and then how the quality of it has been, and seeing where and through whom and what interactions and what like sort of coordinates of just what you've like basically what you've been busy with have equated, right? So like, for example, at a certain time, it's a good time to interact with and do business with certain people in certain industries. So you seek them out, you apply, you get hired with them, and you benefit, right? Now, what can happen is that it's like you're operating, you're living, you're doing things to the best of your knowledge and ability with the maximum amount of wisdom you have available. And then what happens is that as you're doing that, and it's working good, you actually go and you gain like additional knowledge as you're wisely working, and you're shown how things can work even better. And then what you do is you actually make those things work better, right? Now, the only way to see, well, actually, you will see automatically, yet there is a way to see quite clearly. And like, look, it's as if what I'm saying is that if you look closely and you reflect on the progress you've made, and you notice the details of how things have improved, and you compare what has happened with what you've expected that would happen, and you look at the positive results, outcomes, and points of it, and then you adjust so that you're operating more in accordance with the way that things have gone better, you basically always are good to go, and things are always good, and you're really, living a very good life all the time, because you're just moving and living and operating and working and winning and so on in a very, very good way that is very like perfect. It's like the perfect way for you to live, and you're living that way, and you're staying on that way because you're paying attention to how like the currents are moving. So it's like you're navigating perfectly, and it's a perfect journey. This actually happens, this works, I do this. So part of this, a big part of this, is actually us having the ability to sort of like set objectives and work on them wisely, yet also at the same time be additionally, and you automatically are, divinely guided and sort of accompanied like by the Creator's guidance to and into a state of, and like basically a mode of operation where things are always made increasingly perfect and even better, and it keeps getting better and better. Now, what I'm telling you all here is actually simpler than it may sound. It's actually something that goes on with all of us. It's just that what I'm reporting of here for almost 20 minutes now is like the details of looking at your progress and then being able to see how come and why it went better, and then keeping it that way. Okay. It's as if what I'm saying is we can foresee the future technically to a certain degree based on having wisdom and knowledge of how life is cyclical and systematic and how the universe works, okay? By God's grace and truth, right? And then at the same time, there's a surprise element at work that always makes it work out very good. We're now talking about understanding this surprise element and how it works to a certain degree. Like, okay, how do you say this? If I set out to, okay, I'm going to compare this to archery. I've got targets set up. I've got a real good bow and arrow. I know how this thing works. I know that basically if I aim this way, if I shoot this way, while the wind is blowing this way, and I exhale like this, and I fire that arrow, I know the trajectory, the arc, whatever details, and I'm basically like, I know I'm going to hit that target, okay? Yet, what happens is, you hit the target, and you hit a lot more targets, a lot better, while you knew how this bow and arrow, like this system works. What's going on is that there's an additional sort of an automatic like fine-tuning and a perfection at work during all of this that makes it all work better for us. Do you see what I'm saying? And now being able to clearly see that is very important. Because think about this. What if you could adjust your decision-making processes, my friends? What if you could look at what happened? It's like look at what you set out to do and what actually happened and see, okay, that worked a lot better. And now, how about we keep it that way? By keeping watch, analyzing the data from our scientific experiments, and then operating accordingly. So it's almost like a person who's rowing in a boat, and they're rowing in a boat, and it's like they know the currents or whatever, and you're rowing a certain way to get from A to B. You know where you'd like to get to, but while the current is also changing, it's working better for you than you thought it would. Like the weather is better, and you're also adjusting your route a tiny bit so that it works even smoother, right? So it's like divine guidance at work here, guiding us and perfecting us and leading us on to perfection more and more and more, because of also being like guided on the way. While we are on the way to the best of our knowledge and wisdom and ability, there's an additional divine guiding and sort of a correcting in a positive way, actually, force at work in our lives. Now, for most people, right, and I hope this will be the case for everybody, and it generally is, and at the same time, for most people, this happens when, like this one fellow was saying, hey, when you're finished with work in the evening, I'd like you to just take like maybe a minute or two to just reflect on how the day went and what happened and like what could go better. Yeah? This is a thing that in the evenings you reflect a little while you're laying in bed happily, right? And you reflect on what happened, right? And so what happens is you're basically seeing, oh, okay, did you notice that detail? Oh, that worked wonderful. That worked like magnificently. Okay, really? So, that's because of this. Oh, I see. Okay, now I can do it this way more, right? It's actually what I'm talking about. So yeah, great and magnificent, apparently like hidden things of life, yet becoming completely clear to us magically by seeing and seeking and being divinely guided and seeing and realizing, and divine blessings coming, getting wisdom, retaining it and working with it and winning with it, and be happy and be prudent and just have the fullest joy of this journey and this practice and this most important life skill of self-mastery. One has to practice self-mastery because you're determining your destiny and even your good destiny. So, such a great process. I hope that this is of good guidance, and please repost and reshare, retweet this everywhere. Thank you very much. Jah, guide, and protect.